All right, everyone, welcome back. You ready to dive into something interesting today?
Absolutely. Always ready for a good story.
Well, this one starts out simple enough, an act of kindness on a flight.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
But as we dig in, we'll see it gets pretty fascinating. It gets all connected in ways you might not expect.
Okay, color me intrigued. Let's hear it.
So picture this. Flight 2.47 from Ronald Reagan, Washington National Airport to Newark. Just a normal flight.
Got it. Packed plane. Everyone's ready to get where they need to be.
Exactly. And among those passengers, we have Barron Trump, keeping a low profile. He's in first class.
Okay, makes sense.
And then we have an elderly veteran, late 70s, medals and all. He's heading to his seat in economy.
I'm already seeing the contrast here.
Right. And then, just before takeoff, there's a little bit of a commotion. The veteran's seatmate needs to change seats for whatever reason.
Ah, I bet this is where things get interesting.
You got it. This is when Barron steps up, out of the blue. He offers his first-class seat to the veteran. He just says, some people deserve it more. Simple as that.
Wow, I can only imagine the reactions on that plane. Talk about an unexpected gesture.
I know, right? I mean, that's not something you see every day, you know what I mean?
Not at all. And it's those kinds of moments that really make you think, what did the source material say about how the other passengers reacted to this?
Well, apparently the whole atmosphere on the plane shifted. People were whispering, buzzing about what had just happened, really taking notice.
That makes sense. I bet it sparked quite a few conversations. People probably started thinking about their own actions, their own values.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how one person's choice can have that kind of impact on a whole group of people. But hold on, because the story doesn't end there.
Of course not. There's always more to the story.
Right. So mid-flight, the veteran, he starts talking to the person next to him and reveals something pretty surprising.
Okay, I'm all ears. What did he say?
He shared that decades ago, when he was going through a really tough time after coming back from Vietnam, he got some unexpected help
Help from...
from Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father.
No way! How about that for a twist?
I know. Fred Trump gave him a place to live, a job, no strings attached.
So it's more than just a seat on a plane. It's like this act of kindness echoes back through time.
It's like this invisible thread connecting them. I get chills just thinking about it. But here's the thing, this revelation, it didn't stay a secret. Other passengers overheard it.
And I bet that got people talking even more.
You're telling me. People started sharing their own stories about kindness, moments of gratitude, the impact even small acts of generosity have had on their lives. It was a chain reaction.
I love that. The plane basically turned into this incredible space where everyone was connecting, reflecting on human resilience. The source material mentioned the flight attendant got in on it too. Apparently, her brother served in Iraq.
It's crazy, right? All these strangers finding common ground, sharing those personal stories. It really shows how powerful a shared experience can be, even on a plane. But, sometimes we hear about these grand gestures of kindness, and it's easy to feel like, well, I could never do something like that. What do you think about that?
Oh, for sure. We all have those thoughts.
I mean, does real kindness always have to be those big life-changing actions? Or can those smaller, everyday moments matter just as much?
That's such a good question, and I think it hits on something really important. We don't need to wait for some extraordinary event to practice kindness. It really is about those everyday moments.
Yeah, like what kind of things are we talking about here? What are some examples for people listening? What can we do to make a difference?
Oh, there are tons of things. Imagine you're at the coffee shop. The person behind you can't quite cover their order. You could offer to help, right? Or maybe you see someone struggling with groceries. Just a quick offer to help can turn someone's whole day around.
Yeah, those are great examples. Sometimes it's easy to just get caught up in our own lives and routines.
Absolutely. We forget to look around and see where we can make a difference.
But it's like this story reminds us that even those little acts can add up to something much bigger.
I totally agree. It's not always about the grand gesture. It's the little ripples we create that make the real difference.
What really gets me about this veteran story is how Fred Trump's kindness, all those years ago, still had such a profound impact on him.
That's powerful, right?
It makes you think about the legacy we leave behind, not just the big things, but those everyday interactions with people.
Absolutely. Every interaction leaves a mark, shapes the world around us in ways we might not even realize.
I love that. And speaking of lasting impact, well, the story doesn't end there. Just wait till you hear what happens as the plane starts to land. But I'll have to save that for after a quick break. Stay tuned.
As we dig deeper into this, what really strikes me is how that initial act of kindness, Barron giving up his seat, it didn't just end there.
Yeah, you're right. It really set off this whole chain reaction, people connecting, sharing their own stories.
Exactly. So I'm curious, what do you think it was about being on that plane that made people so open to sharing such personal things?
Hmm, that's a good question. Why do you think? It's not like we just go around spilling our hearts out to strangers every day, right?
Right. I think there's something about being on a plane, you're kind of in this little bubble, like a suspension of everyday life.
You're just surrounded by people you don't know, going to the same place.
And maybe there's a sense of anonymity in that, right? You're not worried about running into these people at the grocery store later.
Makes sense. It's like you can let your guard down a little, be a little more vulnerable without the usual social pressures.
And in this case, Barron's gesture seems to have created this ripple effect, this wave of openness and connection.
I like that. It reminds me of that whole concept of the ripple effect they talk about in social psychology. You know, how one action can set off a chain reaction that goes way beyond the initial event.
Exactly. Like dropping a pebble in a pond, you get these ever expanding circles.
So in this case, the pebble is Baron giving up his seat, and the ripples are all those stories and connections that emerge from that one act.
That's a great way to put it. And those ripples, they can keep spreading even after the plane lands. Just think, the story itself, as people hear it and share it, it has the power to inspire even more acts of kindness.
That's true. The story itself becomes a ripple. What really struck me was the veteran's comment about how sometimes just being seen, acknowledged, can be so powerful.
Oh, absolutely. In a world where it's easy to feel invisible, just having someone recognize you, your experiences, it's huge.
And Barron did that right. He didn't just give up the seat. He acknowledged the veteran's service, everything he represents.
And that resonated with everyone on the plane, right? It reminds us that we're all in this together, that our actions have an impact, even in ways we may not see right away.
It all goes back to what the veteran said to Barron. You've got a good heart, son. Don't ever lose that. It's more than just a compliment.
You're right. It's a powerful message, about carrying that goodness forward, making it part of who you are.
And the fact that Barron texted, Grandpa would have been proud of today.
It shows how much it meant to him, how it tied into his own family's values.
It's pretty inspiring. But it also kind of makes you think about all the times we miss those chances for connection.
Yeah, those everyday moments where we could reach out, be a little kinder. It's easy to get caught up in our own little worlds.
Totally. But this story, it's a good reminder that those opportunities are all around us if we just open our eyes.
Right. It's about being more mindful, more present, and recognizing those little moments where we can make a difference.
It's funny because in a way, a plane is kind of like this microcosm of society. A bunch of strangers from all different backgrounds, all crammed together.
That's a great point. It's like a little petri dish of humanity.
And I wonder if there's something about that shared experience, everyone being a little out of their comfort zone, that makes us more receptive to these acts of kindness.
Oh, maybe. You're more likely to see the person next to you as a fellow human being going through the same thing, instead of just a stranger.
And maybe that shared vulnerability combined with something like what Barron did, it creates a space where people feel safe to open up, connect on a deeper level.
I love that. It's like a reminder that at the end of the day, we all have these moments where we need kindness, where we offer kindness.
It's a powerful message. This whole conversation has been really thought-provoking, I have to say.
Me too. I always enjoy these deep dives.
Before we wrap up, though, I want to ask you, what can we do as individuals to bring more kindness into our lives? Make it a habit, not just a random act.
It's a great question, and I think it's something we all struggle with. How do we make kindness more of a conscious choice?
Exactly. Like, how do we move beyond just those random acts and make it more of an everyday thing?
Well, I think it starts with a shift in our thinking. Like, we need to cultivate that genuine desire to make a difference in the world around us, and then be on the lookout for those little opportunities that pop up every day.
I see what you're saying. So instead of waiting for these big dramatic moments to be kind, it's more about weaving those smaller acts of kindness into our daily lives.
You got it. It doesn't have to be anything crazy complicated. Just simple things like giving a genuine compliment to a coworker, sending a thoughtful text to a friend who's having a rough time, or even just being present, truly listening when someone needs to talk.
You know what I find really fascinating about this story is that it all happened on a plane. In some ways, it's like the perfect example of society as a whole, right?
How so?
Well, you've got all these people from different walks of life, each with their own unique story, thrown together in this confined space. It's like a microcosm of the world.
Oh, I see what you mean, like a little social experiment in the sky.
Exactly. And I can't help but wonder if there's something about that shared experience, that feeling of being a little out of your element, that makes us more open to acts of kindness.
Yeah, maybe. When we're all a little outside our comfort zones, it's easier to see each other as fellow travelers.
Instead of just strangers rushing past each other.
Right, like we're all in this together. And in this case, Barron's actions, they seemed to create this safe space where people felt comfortable opening up, sharing their own stories of giving and receiving kindness.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we're not alone in our experiences, that we all have those moments where we need a little kindness and where we can offer it to others.
And recognizing that shared humanity, well, it's incredibly powerful. It breaks down barriers and allows us to connect on a much deeper level.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners? What can we all learn from Barron's act of kindness and the chain reaction it set in motion?
I think the story reminds us that kindness has this incredible power to change things, not just individual lives, but entire communities. Our actions, even the small ones, they create these ripples that spread out further than we can imagine. And ultimately, it's a call to action, to be more mindful about how we treat each other, to make kindness a part of our everyday lives.
It's like that saying, we can't do great things, only small things with great love.
Exactly. It's not about waiting for those big heroic moments. It's about choosing to be a little kinder, a little more compassionate, a little more aware of the people around us each and every day.
This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure. Always happy to chat about kindness. Is my favorite topic.
And to all our listeners out there, we'd love to hear what stood out to you from today's episode. What are some small acts of kindness you can commit to doing today? Until next time, keep those ripples of kindness flowing.